Hello everybody. Today we are going to be doing something a little different and I don't really know what to call this. I would say we're going to be creating a pixel perfect model, but it's not really pixel perfect. It's kind of like voxel perfect, but it's not truly with voxels. So this is going to be for mind test, of course. And I had got an email from Pavel asking if I could do a video on how to create meshes and models that, you know, have that very voxel look to them by being pretty much pixel perfect for the textures and everything. And of course, I am not one to turn down a good video suggestion, so that's what we're going to do today. So what I have done here is just moved the default cube to have the origin in a corner, and then I shrunk it down to 1.6 by 1.6 by 1.6, and you can see dimensions are all 1.6 here. Technically I could have scaled it down, or yeah, really just scaled it, but this is easier because my edges are all still perfectly to the pixels. So this is going to be a bounding box, just to tell us that whatever we're building needs to stay inside of here. So I'm going to go ahead and change the maximum draw type to wire. So now even if I have solid, it still shows as a wired. And that is the Z key to open up this menu here. Actually, I should turn on my I may not have that installed anymore. Here we go. I don't know where it's going to open though. Okay, I don't, oh, here it is. Our handy dandy little screencast key thing there. So we're just going to select this box with right click, and then we're going to go over here and click and drag to change all of these to locked. So now we cannot move it, we can't scale it, and we can't rotate it, which is perfect because we do not actually even want to be able to select that. So we're going to go over here and click the little cursor button there, and now this cannot even be selected. We can still select it from the outliner here, but we cannot select it in 3D view, which is perfect because we do not want to be able to. All right, so Pavel was trying to create a chicken and included, for my benefit, a picture of the Minecraft chicken. So I think we're going to kind of maybe make a chicken. It won't be a very good chicken, only because I'm not really too worried about it. But yeah, let's see here. So we're just holding down the control key. I guess I should really explain what I'm doing here. Holding down the control key, and you see the grid lines here. When you hold down control, it snaps to those grid lines, and each of those grids will become 1 pixel on our final texture. So we want to be careful to always hold down the control key while moving, so we get everything aligned to the grid perfectly. Okay, so I'm leaving 3 spaces around that way. I have no idea if that's really the right amount. Actually, we're going to put the backside to 2 because we're going to put wings on here yet, and then we have to do a head. And I guess it gets a tail too. The body here is going to be too tall, honestly. We're going to make this shorter. Bloop. That might give him legs that are too long, but you know what? We'll drag the body down to there. Okay, so we have the main body. We need to make a tail and wings now. The easiest way to do this would be to make some loop cuts. Control R to pull this menu up. But you'll notice these purple lines, pink lines, whatever those are, kind of pinkish, purplish. Those indicate where the cuts are going to be made, and they're not perfectly lined up with the grid. When we do 3, they're not. This is perfectly lined up to the grid, which is cool, but we don't need that many cuts. So I'm going to right click to deselect, and I'm just going to make 1 cut in the center, and then we are going to move this And the wing's gonna start there, and then we're gonna do another loop cut, and you'll notice this one also does not meet in the center, but we're gonna go ahead and take it anyways and move it all the way to the edge, completely all the way to the edge. These are both inside the exact same space now. It's important that you do not lose that selection because we want to move it back in one space, one grid space. So we have you know, 1 pixel, 1 voxel at the end there. According to this picture that I'm referencing, we want 1 at the bottom but up 2 spaces. So again, doing the same thing, loop cut, move it all the way down to the bottom, and then move it back up our 2 spaces. You can also do it here with global transforms. So for example, if I move one of these wrong, we will see that the Z location has moved. Everything here should be pretty much decimal point perfect, or to the 10th place perfect, I guess, really, because those are, again, are voxels. So you could put it and just drag it close to what looks right. So actually, let's do that. So it started something around here. So we want to drag it to what's about right, which is about there. And then we look at this and we see we're at 0.606499. Well, we can get rid of all of those trailing numbers and just put it to 0.6, and it is now perfect. We will change to face select mode and select this face and extrude out 1 space. And then we're going to go ahead to the other side, select that face, and extrude out 1 space. Let's go ahead and change it to solid. All right, so those are the 2 wings for the chicken. Does not have a tail yet. In the picture, I have no idea how long the tail is, so we are going to just guess at that. But we're going to go ahead and... Oh, wait, you know what? That's not a tail. That's the back end of its body. Okay, well that makes things easier. So this is essentially then the chicken's body, I guess. Now, if the head has its own animation, and by that I mean it moves independently of the body, like to put its head down to eat and stuff, which I believe it does. So what we're going to do is actually create a new mesh. And the reason we do this is because it makes it very easy to animate when it is separate pieces, because then you're just animating each mesh and you don't have to worry about things and them deforming and whatever, because there's really only one way it can go. That's not worded right. When you're moving this mesh, it only will affect this, so it can't affect the other one, because the bones, if you're using bones, have absolutely no control over that specific mesh. I've covered that in some of my previous videos. I'll try to link those in the description. Okay, so according to this picture, I probably made this thing way too wide, but whatever. I'm not counting the pixels on the image. We're not going for that kind of perfection. It shows it being down 2, but I'm going to put it down 3 because I think I made my body quite a bit taller than theirs. And the head sticks out 2 pixels and sticks into the body 1 pixel. So we're going to go ahead and, you know what, I'm going to put it in 2 pixels. It's way too tall right now. Let's pull this down. Yeah, this is going to look horrible because I didn't follow the pixels perfectly. But you know what, that's okay. It's not like I'm actually going to use this file for anything. Okay, so now it has like a beak that comes off of the front. So we are going to go ahead and do 2 loop cuts, and that actually matches up perfectly. Very nice, very nice. And we will extrude out this front one, 2 spaces for the beak. Now the chicken I'm looking at here, yeah, this head looks horrible. This is way too wide. So you know what we're going to do? We are going to pull this in 1 pixel from each side. Let's change this to solid. Alright, that looks better. I mean, it's really fat though. So I think what I'm going to do is actually pull this in even more. And let's see what we get here. Okay, so it's 4 wide, which is actually what the Minecraft one is. And we're going to just select the whole side there and pull this in. This chicken just looked a little too fat in my opinion. All right. All right, I can live with this. This doesn't look too horrible. Now the wings actually should be animatable as well. Currently how this is done, they are not, but oh well, so be it. I don't feel like going back and fixing that. So here we have the basic chicken. We don't have feet on it. The feet would just be a simple matter of pulling some boxes out of the bottom, but you'd probably want those to be animatable as well. So we're not going to cover those. We're going to just say we've got the body here. Let's move on to the texturing, because this is, you know, also kind of an important bit. So first things first, we're going to start with the head, only because it's smaller and therefore should be easier, right? Well, if you thought that, wrong. It's actually probably going to be about just as difficult as the rest of the body. We will delete this face from the bottom, because that should never be visible, I don't think. Because when that rotates, it'll pivot at like this point-ish. I don't think it'd ever be visible. We could always leave it in. It wouldn't kill us. But I'm just gonna not. Alright, so unwrapping. Everybody's favorite part of making models. Imagine, if you will, that you have a piece of cardboard, I guess, and you want to make the shape out of it. And you basically are marking where you will cut in that cardboard to be able to make this shape. So on this particular mesh, we are doing, I think just that should work. Let's go ahead and unwrap to see what happens. All right, so that worked. So what we have is the one side of the face, which will just be a flat cut. And then we have the other side of the face, which is the exact same shape. If you wanted, you could use the exact same texture on both by putting the two over each other. I will show you how to do that in a second. And then the whole outside here is just one long piece that gets folded here, folded there, folded there, folded there, folded there, folded there, folded there, and folded, not folded there because there's an opening. If there was not an opening here, we would have to mark a seam on this. And marking a seam, you just click on the edge and then Control E and mark seam right there. So let's go ahead and re-unwrap this. And you'll notice nothing changed. Alright, so we have the head. Let's make a pixel perfect texture. So we are going to go ahead and create an image texture. And I'm going to do 64 by 64. You could kind of do whatever you want, but I do recommend keeping it something a little smaller because it's easier to line the pieces up. And then we are going to also do snap to pixels, which I know is a little difficult to see. UV snap to pixels. We also are going to turn on constraint to image bounds. That way we can't move things outside of the image. Now, for some odd reason, that's moving with that, but this one's not. I don't know why it considers these to be joined, because I cut the faces on both. Yeah, I have a full loop cut going around. Well, we're going to go ahead and select this one, mark a seam to. It shouldn't be affecting anything. Okay, it might just be accidentally thinking they're the same, so we're going to change to single face select. Wow, this just keeps getting in the way. UV selection, yeah, face select instead of island. For some reason it didn't consider this group an island, or it did consider this group an island, but it didn't consider this one an island. So we're going to go ahead and select all those faces, and we will okay, why is it joining these? Those should not be joined. Like literally, it's cut everywhere. No, don't join those faces. Yeah. That's weird. Um, we can change. We can fix this. We can change the face select mode, and actually we'll go to top view, and we are just going to select this side. Now we have those faces selected, and we will go ahead and move them to the corner, and then we are going to select these and move them to the corner as well. And now when we select this whole thing, we have this piece here, which is the top, front, bottom, and back, and we have the two sides. And we will go ahead and actually move these to here. And you may have noticed that these are not matching up perfectly. And yes, that is a problem, because when you unwrap, it doesn't necessarily snap it to pixels, which is kind of weird. But we're gonna make that all better. And I actually should have done this from the get-go, but we need to create a new image. Image new. Here we go. Okay, we still want 64 pixel, but I should have done the color grid. All right, so now we have visible pixels for everything, and we're gonna go ahead and change this to texture so we can see our pixels. But you may notice that these are looking a little blurry. We do not want them to look blurry because it makes it very difficult to see what is going on. So to fix that, we're going to go File, User Preferences, and I believe we just want to disable MIP maps. Yep. So it's under System, and we want to turn MIP maps off. And we now have, oh wait, I did not want that. I wanted to keep that at texture. I want to put this to object mode. We now have each pixel visible. And now you might be thinking, whoa, but this is only supposed to be 2 pixels. That's way more pixels than it's supposed to have. And you are correct. It is. So let's fix that by grabbing this, moving it to this corner, and saying, well, it's supposed to be 2 pixels tall. So let's scale it and see how destroyed it gets. That is 2 pixels tall. But how many wide is this? Let's change to side view, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 pixels wide, and what are we looking at here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so we need to select that back one, G to grab, and move it in. The top should be 2 pixels. The bottom should be 2 pixels. We're seeing 3 pixels on the bottom. So let's go ahead and move that up one. All right, so this is, why can't I grab this? Oh, because I accidentally selected everything. This is now theoretically a pixel perfect texture. And it should be the same on both sides. Of course, my lighting here is such that we can't tell, so I'm going to go ahead and delete this light. And okay. It looks the same on both sides. Obviously, we would want to paint this with, you know, something a little different, because that looks a little silly. But we're going to go ahead and move this back to the corner there. And now let's work on this fun piece. So first, we're just going to scale it. Just select this one. We're going to scale it down quite a bit till it's close. We're going to change to front view so we can see how many pixels wide. 4 pixels wide. And what are we looking at here? We're actually sitting at 4 pixels wide. Very nice. I'm going to go ahead and drag this up to the top. We'll give it that ribbon on the one side. And then we just need to figure out where our ends are. So, is that the bottom end here? I can never remember. Okay, so this is the bottommost on the back, and that's our top face. So that should be 2 pixels tall. It is 2 pixels tall. This one should also be 2 pixels. It is. This one should be 4, I thought. Yes, that should be 4 pixels. So we need to go ahead and select from here on down. And just move it down 1 pixel. And then the next one should be 2 pixels. 2 pixels. 2 pixels. I believe this it should show on the mesh which is selected. There we go. So if you have to face select mode, you can kind of see it changes the highlighting on the mesh when you select it here. So you can see that's the top. Those are where the eyeballs would be, top of the beak, front of the beak, bottom of the beak. The bottom of the beak is only 1 pixel. It should be 2. So we are going to go ahead and select these and drag it down 1, which now makes that 2 pixels. That's 2 pixels, and then the bottom of the head should be 4 pixels. So we have the head. And if you ever decided that you wanted to make both halves different, you can always do this. Just select the half you want, separate it out, and then move it right here. And then put them back together. Now you can leave a pixel spacing between the texture pieces. You can butt them all up next to each other. Minetest is pretty good about doing clean cuts and you don't get texture bleed if you're using it in just without filtering. But if you have filtering on, so it kind of makes the textures blurry, you potentially could get texture bleed when you have 2 pixels right next to each other. You could have some of the pixel from the adjoining face blur onto that one. So you may want to leave a space just to avoid that problem, but that's really up to you. It's going to affect your image file size a teeny bit. Not too much, but it will a teeny bit. So there's the head. Let's go do the chicken real quick. If we just unwrap it, you'll see we just get giant squares. Not what you want, so you do have to manually cut all of your seams. So on this one again, we're going to do close to what we did on the other one of imagining it's a box. Or more, we want to make it out of a box, and we need to know where to make all the cuts. So for the wing, we are going to do the interior edges and then all of the corners. So we'll basically have a box with flaps, and then we'll do the same thing here. So imagine like a box from canned goods at the grocery store. That's what this wing essentially is. And to knock one of those boxes flat, all you have to do is cut the corners, and then you just fold it out. So if we unwrap this now, we'll have 2 pieces here. And these are our 2 wings, and this is the rest of the body, which is still horrible and we can't do anything with. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to pretend that the body is just a box and we want to knock it flat. So we're going to cut all of our edges. And we're going to cut the bottom here. And we're going to cut this corner. And we need to cut this bottom. And then we'll go ahead and mark these. Mark seam. And we'll go ahead and unwrap this again just to see the progression. Ooh, okay, I missed something. Because this should be cut. So someplace I missed an edge. Yes, I did. This back corner right here. So let's go ahead and mark those. Mark a seam. Oh, wait. That was the wrong piece. No worries. If you ever accidentally select one and mark it, just go ahead and reselect it. Control E and clear seam. And it'll be all good. Okay, so we have the body of the chicken. Someplace there's this bottom piece. Or bottom pieces, as I guess the case is, actually. Right there. I don't know what that is. I accidentally selected an extra piece. Okay, so the body of the chicken is unwrapped and ready to go. Now, if I had done this correctly and done the wings as their own pieces, I would have actually unwrapped the wing before duplicating it and putting it over. So I'd only have to do the unwrapping process once. But yeah, I didn't think ahead that well. So now I have to do it twice. So again, we're doing the same thing. We're going to put this in the corner. And we know that the wings were 1 pixel wide. So we are going to select those. Pull it in 1 pixel. Pull it in 1 pixel. And basically we just repeat this process ad nauseum until it is done. Flipping our views from side to side to see how many pixels tall something is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this should only be 5 pixels tall, and right now it's way more than that. So if we put it down to 0, we can then just count down our 5 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we'll, make sure we select all of those. Figure out the width. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And again, we're going to put this down to nothing. And then just count out 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. And of course, I'm looking at the one on the back side. But I think if we do Shift 3, it gives me, right ortho. Maybe it's Control. There we go. Control plus whatever number in the numpad will give you the opposite side. So yeah, that looks pixel perfect. I don't see any pixels looking stretched or horribly disfigured. So we're going to go ahead and repeat that on this wing, which again, had I done this right and made the wings their own mesh so they could flap, I would have just unwrapped it right away and then not have to deal with all of this. But I forgot to do that, so now I pay. Fortunately, already having one, it's actually pretty quick to do the second, because we can just use the first one as a guide. And again, we could put the wings on top of each other if we wanted to reuse the same texture. Top view on this reveals that the body is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But I thought it was 8 deep. No, it was 5. 8 by 5. No, wait, those were the wings. Never mind. That's 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 8 by 10 is what the bottom of this thing should be. So here's the bottom of the chicken's body. We're going to scale that down to there. I have no idea if that's right. So we are going to zoom in and count these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It should be 10. So we are going to grab these and move them out 2 spaces. And it should be 8 wide, and we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, so that's the bottom of our chicken. Let's scale this thing down quite a bit. We need to be careful, though, that we don't scale it down too small, because if you scale it down tiny and then scale it back up, you kind of lose tons of detail. So don't scale it down too much, or you will have to be rebuilding a lot of it. As long as each face is still, or each edge is still in its own space, it's really not too horrible, because you can pretty easily fix whatever you screwed up. But yeah, it's easier if you just don't scale it down too tiny. All right, so we have a beautiful reference point here. And you know what? I think I might be doing this the wrong way, actually. Oh. Nope, that is actually the right way, surprisingly enough. All right. I was thinking that this had maybe been rotated. But the red line is on the front half of the body. Admittedly, it's on way more of the front half here, but it is on the front half. So I think that means I'm doing this right. It doesn't really matter. It's just something you need to know when you are going to make your textures. So that's the right width. But evidently this thing needs to be quite a bit longer. Didn't want to select those. Alright, so that needs to be pulled out to there. For some reason I have a green line on its butt. What? There shouldn't... No, this doesn't touch the green. Okay, that makes me wonder if I lost a pixel. I scaled it down too far. Alright, so we're just going to select... Oh, we can't because the wings are... Oh, man. Okay, well, we are going to go and manually select all of the faces to the outside of this body so we can re-unwrap them. Those are the faces that we need to fix. So we're going to unwrap. Yes, there was a space of 1 pixel there and I lost it when I scaled it too small. So we want to make sure that stays visible. I think that should be small enough. Okay, let's see. Yep, that looks pretty good. So that lines up perfectly. Wow, that actually might all be right. That's 2 pixels. That is 2 pixels. Sweet sauce! I scaled it the exact right amount, and everything is actually to the right size. So now we have our pieces, and all we have to do is take these into, you know, whatever image editor and paint that. Now, one thing to note, when you have all of these and you know, do export UV layout, and yeah, let's just save it to my home folder and call it UV. I believe I can show you that. I honestly don't know if this is going to be visible because I forget how I set this up to record, if it's recording window or if it's recording screen space. But this is our UV, whoops, wrong button, for the chicken's body. You can't really make out too much because the lines for it are 1 pixel, and it's pretty much being drawn per pixel. So we don't have any openings. So you do have to reference the image within Blender to see what you're really doing. Let me go ahead actually and open the image that I just saved here in the UV editor. There you go. And you can see, there we go, that this outline does not actually perfectly follow where these edges are because it can't. It's drawing a pixel thick line on something that exists in a pixel spaced environment. So the outlines are not perfect. So basically what you need to do is go ahead, save your UV layout, and then have Blender open to reference where those lines actually are. And you may even have to just count them out with pixels. What I have done on a few occasions is actually put in image guides for where pieces are, because those exist between pixels in your image. And they don't get saved with the image either. But but it lets you get your outlines, and then as you tweak your textures, you always know where those mesh lines are. Obviously, you know, with something like this, you're going to have a lot of lines running all over the place, and it'd be pretty messy. But you do what you gotta do, you know? And then for the chicken's head, we had those mesh pieces in the corner here. So we're actually going to go ahead and open our UV image, and we will take those and we'll just drag them over to, say, here. Then we could, you know, export UV layout from this, bring both of these UV layouts together into GIMP or whatever image editor you're using, and then crop it down to this size, keeping it square. I think it's better if the textures are square, so I put this at 64 by 64, but I think it would have made it in a 32 by 32 pixel image. And then you just use one texture in the code in mind test for the mob or model. You know, you could be making an entity that's not, or even a node you could be creating. And you would just use that one texture, and even if it's multiple meshes, as long as all the UV information, you know, the color and stuff, where it's all on that same image, it'll work just fine. Oh, I just made that completely transparent. Let me put this back to the colored one. All right. So there you have it. How to create a pixel perfect texture for a very voxelized image. It's really not hard. It's just very time consuming and tedious, because when you unwrap these, you pretty much are fixing all of the unwrapped material to line up perfectly with the pixels. But the good news is, once you've done it once for your mesh, you never have to do it again, unless of course you change something, in which case, yes, you would have to redo anything that was changed. But just for an example, just to show how it'd be done real quick. Say we decided that this chicken's beak needed to be bigger, so we pulled it out 1 pixel. Well, we have just messed up a few things. Like, this is only 2 pixels, but it should be 3. So we're going to go ahead and select the whole of the image. Also, the side of its beak should be sticking out 1 pixel further. So we're going to go ahead and change to the edge select. And we're going to move these beak pieces out. And we're going to go change back to island selection to take those whole things. Move them out. So that's fixed already. That was a very easy fix. We now need to find which... Oh wait, let's go to matte face. We need to find out which one of these is the front of the beak. Okay, so this is the front. So this needs to be 1 pixel longer, and the one below it needs to be a pixel longer. Well, we can't do that without having space to move it a pixel. So let's move it down 1, and this one should be 3 pixels. So let's go ahead and do a box selection of its edge and all the faces above it. Move that down 1, and then this is the front, so this is the bottom. So let's go ahead and do a selection of its lower edge and everything. Back to edge selection. Its lower edge and everything, and it's now 3 pixels. So you don't have to unwrap the image, you just need to move where some of your pieces are. Which, like on the body, if we had to unwrap this whole thing, it would destroy all of what we did here and we'd have to redo everything. Where, you know, if we had only adjusted, maybe we made the wings longer or something. Well, we wouldn't need to redo the rest of the chicken's body because that's all still fine. All we have to do is fix the wing. Which actually, if we did, I'll demo that too real quick. I don't know how long this video is. It's probably way too long, but whatever. Let's change this to edge selection. Okay, so we're going to make the wings 1 space longer. Okay, so what did that just do to our mesh, besides mess it up? Of course, we can't really tell too much, because I've got this transparent thing, but the bottom edge here, which gets 2 faces, is now actually only 1 node, or 1 pixel, 1 unit. So we'd have to push in all of the bottom pieces, 1 pixel, which... not really a big deal. Oh, you know what? I'm doing this all wrong. The image bounds didn't change. It's the it's this one here. This should go down a pixel. Because that's what we did. We moved that one face, or that one edge, down 1 pixel. So those all need to be dropped 1 pixel. Then the wings need to be 1 pixel longer, which is a little tricky, only because you have to know which part of the wing. I think it's the bottom on both. Okay, that one worked. Okay, but I have a feeling that one of these wings is actually upside down. That's this one, and that is the bottom, so that's right. Let's take that one and move this. That is the top. So let's actually island select this one and rotate 180 degrees. And now, the bottom of it is the bottom, which is pretty handy. Because there's nothing worse than making textures for things and then discovering, oh, I made that whole piece upside down. I mean, it's not a huge deal. You can always change it later by just rotating the UV around. You don't have to do anything with the picture. But it is nice to have it done right the first time. But that is going to wrap this up. So hopefully this helps you out, Pavel, and anybody else that is trying to make pixel perfect voxely images in Blender. It's really not difficult to do. Just takes a little bit of time to get everything set up correctly. But once you do it once or twice, you'll have it down pat and you will be pumping out voxel-ish meshes like nobody's business. So, thanks for watching, and I will catch you next time.